Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we have yet another guest. Her name's Nicole, and she's going to discuss with us today how she came to be on her spiritual journey and where she sees herself going with all this. So without further ado, hello, Nicole. How you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks. So let's jump in there right quick. I've got a lot of interest along the podcast topic of spirituality, the healing journey, everything in conjunction with that. So, if you could tell the audience how this all started for you, like what's your story prior to becoming awakened, if you will, right? If you want to use that terminology.
Yeah, well, that's a big question. And I guess it goes back a long time. I grew up in the mountains, so I was really close to nature,
Okay, nice, nice.
which I think is a really spiritual place. And it always has been for me. Just being able to connect with the outdoors is its own form of sanctuary or church, whatever you want to call it. And
Therapy, sure.
therapy, yeah.
Yeah.
And also the connection with your body when you're moving out in nature. But then kind of had some dysfunctional parts of childhood. And I think for me, anytime there's been storms in my life or chaos, difficult times, that's always led me to a deeper connection with this spirituality
Okay.
or waking up, if you want to call it that, and kind of shaking things up because we're kind of forced to grow. We're forced to change or,
Most definitely.
shut down, whatever you want to call it.
Well, that's yes, key point there. When you say shut down, to me, that is society's way of suppressing our inabilities, sorry, our inner abilities to actually function the way we're designed to, but they don't want that. So there's intrusive stipulation, red tape, and of course, of all kinds of other shit that goes on in order to prevent you from being your whole self. Just one sec. What's up? Well, quickly. Well, text it to me. I'm in the middle of a podcast. Okay. I'll talk to you soon. Honey. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Usually there's no interruptions. She wasn't aware that I was doing a show here. My apologies.
Oh yeah, I get it. My dog's here, so she might make an appearance too.
That was
But
cool. Fur balls, man. Furry little babies, man. I'm all about that. They're actually children to me, not just dogs. And it goes deeper than that. To me, I feel like the animals are actually guardians, along with mystical cats. They're not just your household objects to look at, to feed, throw out for shits and pisses all day, right? Sorry, as you were there, Nicole.
oh yeah, they totally are. They can help us connect to that. Starla, my dog, is definitely one of my familiars or whatever you want to call it.
Big time, right? And
Yeah.
I guarantee that you can probably connect more with the animals because they're always in the present moment, along with nature, obviously. A tree doesn't fucking move. It's, sorry if my vulgarity, I don't know how people accept or maybe put up a wall to that, but to me, it just helps me flow. I usually say that right out the gate so that people aren't like, oh man, he's too foul mouthed. But
Warning explicit content.
right, yeah. So, and I always make sure that when before I publish and I'm doing my little prep work, that's one of the key factors. It's not made for kids. I don't want to be, I'm putting out content there that can be therapeutically utilized, but at the same time, the way I'm addressing it isn't really for people who might be offended by, foul language and I don't know.
you're, you're being
Yeah,
real.
I
You're,
find
you're
it just flows better, right? Yeah,
bringing the realness to it.
that's it. Yeah,
I
yeah,
get it.
yeah. Sorry.
No worries. So, I think for me, relationships have been a gateway. My first relationship was abusive,
Hmm.
and I after that I went through a hard time, and basically the hard time was what I found out later is trauma and PTSD.
Yeah.
And in that moment, though, I was 17, 18, 19. It felt like really scary.
Mhm.
I shut down, I isolated, I was angry, I didn't have anyone to talk to lean on, and I was by myself just kind of searching for things, trying to find answers. And and so that actually brought me to finally, after some kind of dark years there, deciding to become a therapist and work with PTSD.
Sweet. Okay. I got to interject quickly. I
Yeah.
too suffered that with a diagnosing of bipolar 1. Wasn't diagnosed with PTSD, but it's quite apparent if you got a label that they want to toss to you. That's pretty Trump and up there with the rest of them. So,
Hmm.
what course of action do you actually provide people, if you don't mind me asking, Nicole, to kind of like prevent that way of thinking? Because PTSD is riddled with all kinds of symptoms, but it really is engineered in the way somebody perceives reality based on past traumas and experiences, right? So, yeah, if you could educate probably myself and others just on the modalities that you have.
To treat trauma, to
Yeah,
treat
right.
PTSD.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I have a mind, body, spirit approach. Trauma changes our brain. And so I think that's one of the main things to understand. When you wake up and your entire world is different and you don't recognize yourself and other people don't recognize you, you know, that can be really scary, and that's trauma. It rewires what feels safe. So we could go along and unconsciously be triggered by something and all of a sudden feel like we're not safe and feel like there's people out to get us. So it's hard to have fun because we're always kind of hyper vigilant, we're on edge all the time. So it needs a body approach. Talking about trauma often just re-traumatizes us. It just brings up all that trauma, and we feel our heart rate go up, we get stressed, we have a response, but trauma needs to be processed through the body. So in animals who don't have a higher cortex of
Yeah.
the thinking brain, they go and they shake and they release the energy that was built up. Like if a dog almost gets hit by a car, it goes and it shakes and it releases that energy.
Really? Can I stop
It,
you right there for a sec? It only
yeah.
brings light to the situation because I've got a 10-year-old dog. He's pit bull lab and whatnot, and he was struck the first year and a half that I had him. Not even, I don't think he was a year old. And he came to my door. We went on a like a couple hours long search, couldn't find him. Days before Christmas, and he got struck by a car, and I only knew that from a neighbor saying, "Hey man, you got a little black dog? I think I got smoked by a car, and it was like black. I couldn't see it." And I said, "Okay, well, where's my dog?" And they said, "It ventured down over the woods." I'm like, fuck. So it's like minus 15 or some shit out there in the middle of winter. And I'm like, I can't find my dog. I'm out like running all over Hell's Creation, light calling for it. And he came back 3 to 4 hours later. It's just before midnight. And I heard it at the back of the screen door. I was like, no way, man. That's my dog Chopper. I opened the door and he's got his paw there that he just brushed against the door and he's holding it up like, fuck, I'm injured. Help me. And I brought him. And I was like, no way. So that just made, everybody content and overwhelmed with joy. And our Christmas was awesome that year. But you're telling me that basically the reason why he kept having those fucking, um, I call them seizures, was he was trying to rid himself of the PTSD from that experience.
Well,
Maybe.
I'm not sure if he was having seizures, and that is a theory. So when people have a flashback, it feels like death because it feels like that a terrifying thing is happening again.
Yes, yeah.
There's so much energy in that, right? And so the idea is that if we can let ourselves, with a guide, with help, with a therapist, with a healer, with someone, be able to release some of that energy
Therapeutically.
therapeutically, then that can help and reach a successful conclusion. Because another common thing with trauma in animals, I'll give you another animal kingdom example, is disassociation. So when we're experiencing something so overwhelming that we can't really handle it, we can kind of check out and numb out.
Uh,
And in that moment, that's really helpful. So, like a deer getting eaten by a lion, it's already tried to run. already tried to fight or flight,
Mhm.
and neither have been successful. So they're getting eaten alive, and it's being flooded with chemicals to have a as painless a death as possible. So yeah, humans have that
Yeah.
too. And the problem is sometimes we use that coping skill, we overuse it. So every time we feel discomfort, if we
Numb
have
it.
childhood trauma, we can
Right.
check out a lot and not be present. And so that kind of just feels like being numb in our bodies and feeling disconnected.
Okay. Also on that note, is
Yeah.
that's obviously I've read about bioenergetics. Sorry. Yes. Gabor Mate's, Bessel van der Kolk's about trauma, and it's all surrounding the same loop. That fight or flight method, not method, but that's what we get stuck in, and you need parasympathetic so that you have rest and digest, and that's what you're telling me. But also, that is the case with sexually abused victims, right? That they get into those modes where they're simply just like, I'm not here, present in my body anymore, almost like an astral travel, if you will,
Yeah.
just to endure whatever segment of abuse that lasts, and then they suppress it, and then they wait for the next time. So it's that repetition of that vicious cycle they get caught in. Am I right? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So that's probably what happened with me too in my whole diagnosing of bipolar 1 when I was 19. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the good thing is that there is help, and that's what I do is help people with that of regulating their parasympathetic nervous system, like you said, making the body feel safe to be in again and accessing our inner wisdom, right? Or our spirituality, our psychic abilities, our intuition, whatever, because our body knows our body was trying to protect us. And so kind of getting back into tuning into that and experiencing joy and pleasure, right? Like therapy is not just about focusing on bad stuff all the time. It's also about feeling good sometimes too.
Yeah, it's kind of repairing things like you're supposed to, almost like the whole purpose of sleep to
Mhm.
rejuvenate, kill off the old shit and renew some stuff. Okay. So I'm going to pick your brain at this. Obviously, I was diagnosed when I was 19 with bipolar 1. Traumatic experiences, left, right, and center, always in fight or flight mode growing up. But I've learned to adapt to that. As I said on my last podcast, we just wrapped it up with another client, not client, but another participant. And she stated similar things about that. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on EMDR, and how positive that can be to reinforce a therapeutic navigation way out of this to get that person reset again, right? So they're not stuck in that loop. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love EMDR. I
Awesome.
was,
I do it every day. Sorry.
yeah, I was skeptical before I started, but EMDR, like, I am a neuroscience junkie. I love neuroscience, but I think still the best way to explain it is magic because the things that I see with my clients and that I've seen with myself are amazing. So I do a lot of I feel like it's a powerful tool and people need to really be informed to use it correctly
Yeah.
and to use it well. But I do a lot of resourcing, regulating with people to create resources of, a superhero feeling good in their body, you know, your inner light, figuring out like your inner aura, your inner colors, tree, and then being able to, I feel like I'm kind of like a guide where we have our window of tolerance of what we're capable of and we're going into some of those traumas and making sure that person is safe and can process and let go of that and really change their life and change
Oh my God. Yeah.
sometimes generational trauma, right? Where
Yes.
we've learned something from our parents or we've experienced a certain type of trauma so we expect that in relationships and then we pass it down to our kids so
Mhm.
this can affect generations
Oh God, yes. And
or work.
may I interject on that thought too, because I'm very hyper vigilant on the idea. Like I'm a nerd to these topics too. Like about water memory, right? And seeing how we're 65, 70% water-based individuals. It's not just learn practices through verbal, emotional, physical, spiritual, but like it goes deeper than that. Like we've got so much baggage from our ancestors that we're bringing to the light now because they weren't able to finalize what they had to do before they passed on in a physical form. So we got to carry the torch, if you will.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the right understanding, the grasping, the concepts, the knowledge, the modalities that you can put in practice on the daily to keep yourself on a balanced pendulum, no, that's not the right term, a balanced way of living and operating, then it's all for nothing. And that's where I think people get the wires crossed. And I feel that's what happened to me with the bipolar 1 thing, drug-induced psychosis, what I like to call it. I was on a path to enlightenment and spirituality, but I didn't know how to handle all that coming in at once. So it was just an overload. And because I wasn't prepped and ready, it's kind of like, I always use terminology with chess, martial arts. Okay, so let's say a black belt instructor was to give a white belt a black belt because he thought, you've got massive potential. I see a lot in you, but you don't see what he's seen in you. So he gives you this great gift. You're like, well, what the fuck do I do with it? Okay, I'll put it around my head and then act like fucking karate boy from fucking the Karate Kid, right? And you're just laughed at, wax on, wax off. And it's like, oh, okay, now that we fast forward 20 plus years down the way, I've got the same mentality. No, I don't. Sorry. Obviously, it's enhanced, but like same scenario, I should say, same principles before me. But now I've got so many readable tools at my advantage to utilize and work with this instead of just going, the hell do I do with that? It's like giving a fucking child, some crazy mathematician's formula and saying, give me the answer in seconds. You're like, what? You're not going to be able to do that. So that's what I felt was the crash course of my deliverance to where I am now. It's a bumpy road.
Yeah, it sounds intense. And
It was, but I'm grateful for it, man.
yeah, I mean, that's tricky because I don't want to say like everything happens for a reason because that's way too cliche, but
Yeah, I don't
some,
believe in luck and stuff, but yeah.
sometimes, you know, it's those storms and, you know, figuring out it's it's a battle sometimes. Like we don't get to be a good fighter or sailor without taking some hits.
Yeah, man. That's what I'm saying. Like through experience, life experience with any form of activity or any new learning subject. Like you don't start off as the know-it-all. Like the fuck you. It's like trying to prepare a cake, and you're like, I've never done it before. I'm just gonna bam, there it is, and it's gonna taste like shit, look weird, and you're like, fuck. There's no prep work into this at all. So that's
Yeah.
what I felt like I've done for the last 20 years was massive amounts of work, the dark night of the soul, shadow work, forgiving myself, letting go, practices of EMDR, breath work, meditation. The list is just endless, but so are we. And the infinite possibilities. We got to stop saying, I can't do this, I can't do that, and putting barricades and limitations there because that's stopping us from doing what we need to do as soul survivors. I don't mean just human beings doing our bullshit 9 to 5 stuff, man. It goes much deeper than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it takes a lot of strength to do that and to live it, have the lifestyle.
Yeah. Like it's cool to talk it, man, but walk that shit. Like a lot of people, yeah, I'm not going to say that because it's just going to bring down the vibrant frequency that we're trying to push out there. Right. But yeah. Sorry again for that interjection, but um, I know I do it often and I'm still learning not to pierce people and punch them with my energy when I get something to say. That's a learned trait and it's starting to whittle down little by little. Takes time. So I do ask, uh, even as a host, if you could just be patient. But
We'll see back and forth.
yeah, and I love your story already. Like I don't know anything about you. The disclaimer to everybody, like we just met basically, and we're just having a conversation. And I already feel like it's just gonna evolve into something really spectacular. So it's gonna happen if I shut up and let her talk, right? Okay. So without further ado, as you were, Nicole. Sorry.
Okay. Well, and I think I just want to say it real quick before we move on. You
Mhm.
know, if people are struggling and not doing that work too, and they're feeling overwhelmed and stuck and like on the couch in a mess, that's okay too.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. And sometimes it's little things,
Mhm.
doing one good thing a day.
Oh my God. Okay. No, I'm not going to add my 2 cents. Carry on. Sorry, Nicole, because it will be like that the whole way if I don't just pull myself back in, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of where we were.
Reverting back to our earlier discussion. Um, oh, me too. See, I derail us. I do it with everybody.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about trauma
Okay.
and stuff, right?
Trauma. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Healing trauma through the body. EMDR is body based. And then I do a lot of Hertz work
hmm,
too. So Richard Swartz, internal family systems.
okay. Now, how long did you been doing this, Nicole?
Um, like 10 years.
Oh
I worked
wow.
with homeless veterans
Oh
for
no way.
like 6 years.
Oh, that must have been painful, but also exciting and like liberating, I would think. Like there would be so many different variations of emotions you feel on the daily.
Yeah. Yep.
I've
That's
been
fair.
homeless before. Yeah. Okay. So you lived in the mountains your whole life, pretty much nature based, your entire existence. So you already came out of this with some good sense of knowledge, right? I mean, nature's the best teacher, if you ask me. Okay.
Mhm.
But you had some hiccups along the way, disassociation, more or less, right?
Mhm.
Some weird dynamics in the house that you grew up in. Like a lot of us, we all have very similar stories, and it's cool
Yeah.
because we got one massive tribe going here, right? Um, so what really pushed you in that direction to help people on such a magnitude of that?
Mm. Well, as a teenager, I felt like I was broken for so long. And I went and saw a body worker actually. And she said, I had a lot of, she touched me and I just started crying because I had a lot of stuff in my body.
Me
And
too.
she was like, she's like, what would you want to do? And I was like, well, I want to be a therapist, but I'm too broken for that. And she was like, and I think I was 19. So this was a long time ago. She's like, we need the broken people to be the healers because sometimes I'm not saying like you can't understand trauma if you haven't had experienced trauma, but it's probably more difficult to actually understand what it's like to live that.
Mm,
Um, and it made sense to me of like, oh, okay, I could help other people who have experienced trauma. And so then that kind of started more of a healing journey and
mm,
going back to school and doing all that work and then in undergrad, I found Bessel van der Kolk and just loved his articles of pairing the mind and the body and neuroscience and understanding trauma made sense then of like,
me too.
yeah,
After reading this book, The Body Keeps a Score, right? Like
he has a fantastic article that I
this.
read. It's the neuroscience of trauma in the brain or trauma in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And it explains why our sense of time goes off with trauma, where it
Yeah.
could be years, but it feels like it happened today still. It feels like it happened yesterday still.
Yes. And
Our sense of like our body and our limbs can go, and so that helped me understand that was like, okay, this is what I'm experiencing. I'm not actually crazy. This is a normal response to trauma, which
yeah,
I think in itself was liberating at that time. And then,
yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you. Right. It was for me too. It was like, holy
yeah,
shit, big eye opener. So I'm not Chicken Louie. Oh, thanks for that validation confirmation. The only one I need. Okay. Yeah. Wild.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
I'm just burning sage, by the way. If anyone's curious, I'm not burning my junk here with the lighter. You can't see my hands, but it is sage. I do it often. This particular batch doesn't want to burn right, so this is why I'm doing it multiple times per podcast. Um, no, Bessel Vander, how do you pronounce his name properly? I know I'm not hitting that on point. I call him Bessel Vander Cock, but it sounds like
I don't know. I've always pronounced it Vanderkolk, but I'm
sounds
not.
better. No,
And
you're
I'm
right.
not.
There's an L in that, Kolk. So it would be
Yeah,
Cock.
yeah,
Yeah. I've just been calling him cock the whole time. That's pretty bad. Okay. So his book, The Body Keeps the Score.
yeah,
Nicole, when I was a third way through, I told my
yeah.
wife, I was like, dude, I got to put that down. Fuck, that's scaring the shit out of me because it's reliving my childhood. And I'm like, this is so on point and parallel to my life. I swear to God, that's like my twin. It was scary. Just his revelations in his understanding and theorizing things, the way that trauma connects us and deep roots our problems to the point where we suppress things for so long and they start to submerge. And Gabor Mate is awesome with this too. He's got a book called When the Body Says No. So when the Body Says No and the Body Keeps the Score. Highly recommend those two books if you don't understand where your deep-rooted, seated traumas are coming from, and you're just like, oh, why do I feel so awkward right now? This I'm a, amongst my family or friends or coworkers. I should be enjoying myself, but I'm not. I'm pained, and I don't know why. Read those books, and those are gonna unlock so many keys for so many people, man. Shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I had a similar experience where it was like coming home. I got so excited. I went to he used to have a trauma and neuroscience conference in Boston every May.
Yep.
I think he's been ousted from that. I'm not sure. Maybe he's still there. Um, but I went to like 4 of those, and it was, usually when you go to a conference, it's kind of like da da da, but it was so amazing. You
Man,
would probably enjoy it. So many
out there.
amazing
Good.
people every year.
You
Yeah.
feel like one big family, wouldn't you? Like a unity formated of governing bodies just being connected, like on such a beautiful level too. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Hearing for sure. Goosebumps. Ah.
Yeah. It's cool. I love what I do of getting to walk with people and help them with that. And right now, the newest thing I'm doing is just also focusing on relationships and understanding codependence and that runner chaser dynamic that a lot of people get into, especially with abuse
Yep.
and attachment styles.
Now, can I throw something out there? Because this is what you specialize in, Nicole. But just to entertain myself for the moment, because I do specialize in this, maybe not to the degree you are, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be on parallel lanes here. So usually the disruption between two parties were joined together, I want to say, marriage, just relations. Uh, the down grade for this typically is because the people don't come into the relationship as a whole and they're not content within themselves. They don't love themselves. So therefore, I always use a term instead of crush, it should be crutch. You're crutching on somebody because you're lacking something and you see it within them. So what you end up doing is sucking the life out of them to hopes to regain some type of balance within yourself, but it doesn't come from an external source. It comes from within. So disclaimer again to anyone I feel who doesn't have, I don't want to say their shit in order, but who's not working on themselves, doesn't feel good about themselves and where they are. Doesn't matter what your life is. If you're not happy in the present moment, you probably shouldn't be latching on to someone else because you're just going to suck life out of them. And that's when you have the disarray of fucking arguments and you're going to blame it on money and like envious and jealousy. It's all bullshit. I don't know. I feel.
You're right. I think you're right. All the things that we fight about probably aren't the actual issue. And, you know, I think you're kind of talking about codependence a little bit. And I
Yep.
think people who grow up with a narcissistic parent or a parent who's addicted to drugs or a parent who has their own mental health issues who can't be present for you or a sibling or a parent who's sick, we get this message of my needs nobody's asking me what my needs are. Nobody cares what my needs are. My job is to take care of the sick parent or be the good one so my sibling is okay, to, not have anything and to focus on everyone else. So from this young age, we're programmed, it doesn't matter what I feel, what I need. And so most adults who have grown up with anything like that still don't even know how to identify what they actually need, what they want, much less how to ask their partner, hey, can you make dinner tonight? I'm tired. Even something that simple, or I'm too tired, I want to stay home.
Mm,
It's almost it, and so there's
harder. Yeah,
yeah, a
that's
lot of
that's a sin. A lot of guilt and shame around that, right?
work and
I see that all the time.
yeah, just understanding how to get in touch with yourself and figure out what you need and how to ask for that, because we're in relationships, we are kind of reparenting each other.
Here
We're
we
in each
are.
other's care and we don't have to be perfect,
Mhm.
but we're kind of noticing in each other, okay, whoever's dysregulated right now, let's take a break, and we're kind of helping repair each other's nervous systems at the root of it, is kind of what you're saying, right?
Yep.
It's not about,
Trumpet over each other, complimenting each other while doing the inner work. Well, that's what I said. Like, I guess what I could say in conjunction with all that is it's okay to be in a relationship if both of you are fully aware of your lackings, your void fillings, and what you use to fill those, but not sucking it from each other, still complimenting each other while working on your own shit to help one another to, as you said, like basically integrate a healing process for everyone involved, then that's okay. But like when you have two, I don't want to say cripples, but two people who came from similar environments, and that's what we long for, right? You go after familiarities. That's why I won't say women, but people stay in relationships, men and women, or men and men, women and women, in abusive relationships because that's what they were accustomed to growing up in the environment as a child. And that's when things get sticky. They say that uh, we long for someone, we want to have a potential mate. Our match is somebody who brought us up, and it could be either, typically it's the opposite sex, but typically they say like a woman, I want to find a man that resembles my father because I had a close bond with my father and blah 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 blah. What if you didn't have that, but you longed for that love from your dad that you didn't receive? You go looking elsewhere, and that's when a lot of chaos starts to make uh like the ugly hits start showing themselves. And if you don't know how to navigate and therapeutically create proper grounds for yourself, you're going to be in a fucking mess, right? That's why
well,
people come to therapy.
everybody has baggage, right?
Of course we do.
Everybody's learning stuff, and relationships are a fantastic place to learn about ourselves and about others, and even heal those past wounds. And you're right. If two people come into my office and they're both convinced it's one person's fault, it almost always means
Uh,
that other person's not doing their work,
Thank
right?
you.
That
Yep.
person's probably a narcissist. And
Mhm.
it's okay to be a narcissist. And narcissists are wounded people too.
Yep.
They just have to do their work.
That's it. Own your shit. And it's
Yeah.
okay. Like, it is perfectly okay to be broken. We all are. We came into this world broken. I just mentioned this in a podcast before we got on, and I'll say it again because it's just beautiful. The Japanese, when they have a vase or vase, however you want to fucking coin that, um, when it drops or it's destroyed, they put that back on the mantle, glued together to see all the imperfections around the whole base of that. That's what resembles the human body and our psyche and everything that we've ever taken on that we feel is a negative trait. You should be proud of that. Lick your wounds. Like for a prime example is women who give natural birth. They got all these markings on their stomach. A lot of them are like, oh God, it's so ugly in this extra skin. Dudes, do you realize what you've just gone through and what you brought into the world? It's like another life force. Don't let anyone tell you that those scars are nasty and ugly. Like, fucking embrace that imperfection. But it's not imperfection. It's the thought that makes it that way. It's beauty. It's bliss. It's life. We get we get shit backwards all the time. That's part of the conditioned program matrix that we're dwelling in all day long.
Yeah, a lot of times they put those ceramics and pottery back with gold, and
Yeah,
actually increases the value of those pieces.
thank you. Right.
Yeah,
So as I'm saying, like, so in reference point to the human being and the way they want to compass themselves in life, I feel the more flaws you have and the more aware you are, the better off you're going to be, as long as you've done your work and you've gotten to this point. And I'll never say you're a teacher or master. You can show everybody. I love being a student, continuously learn
yeah,
and to engineer a better perspective on anything and everything. That's subjects from layman terms to like massive cosmos spiritual endeavors, right? And I think
yeah.
those are, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's our birthright. It's our journey, right? Like if I have
Hmm,
a trouble with knowing my worth and not feeling worthy, then I get to have this beautiful journey of finding out my worth and
yes.
embracing that, right?
Yep.
If and it's like that with anything.
Hmm. Well,
Mhm.
and I'll add to that too is Alan Watts. I mentioned him earlier. I love that dude. Loved him.
Yeah.
He was a great philosopher. He had a lot of knowledge, a lot of life experience. And what he was saying in one of his podcasts, well, it's not a podcast, one of his sessions that are
Yeah.
always just recorded, right? I mean, this guy's like from what, the 60s, 70s? And when he said something struck me, I was just listening to an audio uh, segment of his walking along with my dog one day, and I was like, right, if I can mentally construct me just walking as if I'm on air or sunshine, like Katrina, that song, beautiful song, then everything else just fades the fuck away. What are we stressed and worrying about temporary shit? If you realize it's cloudy now and it's raining or whatever, later, tomorrow, the next might bring sunshine. So
Mhm.
just accept things for what they are and realize that just for the moment, man. What are we all getting kerfuffled for and our panties in a bunch? Not panties, sorry. You know what I mean? That's an old term. But what are we getting so excited about? If these things don't serve you to make you feel good, sever it, get rid of it. And some people are like, well, fuck, Matt, that's great for you to say, bud. You've done all that work. What the fuck am I supposed to do as a newcomer? And I simply say, well, here's a few modalities. Try these practices out. Discover yourself, redefine yourself, recalibrate, prioritize whatever you need to do to get into a set of action that's ease, not disease, because disease is the exact opposite. You got your negatives and positives. You want to have all positives if you can. You can revisit the negatives to grow stronger in the positive lineage, if you will, but you can't stay in that stagnant mentality, that victimhood, that oh, this happened to me, and oh, that and this one did that, and blah blah. Fuck, man, what are you gaining from that, people? I hate to say this to you, man. It's not me being some fucking guru, but I'm saying, like, does that serve you in a positive manner? And be like, oh, I guess not. Okay, so why are you telling yourself that story over and over and over? It was the past. Leave it in the fucking past. Or bring it to the present, but work on that shit. Face it. Grab it by its ugly fucking heads and go, I got you, bitch. Right? Like, really, though. And say, we're going to deal with this.
Make love to that beast.
Thank you. Just be real with that and go, fuck, this hurts, but ooh, I got to do it. I do that with cold therapy every morning. I'm out here at 6:30. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, 6:30 to 6:45, 7 days a week, punishing myself. Yeah, I am. I'm breaking my body down to engineer a better physical temple, but it's not even that for me. It's just sharpening the mind, going, there's no limits unless I place them, and they start here. This is the final frontier, the consciousness. Actually,
Yeah,
it stems in the
I,
primary brain, which is your stomach. But yeah,
I totally feel you on that.
yeah, man.
And and get help, reach out. We're all there's so many people that are struggling and we all feel like we have to do it silently and we don't. There's people all around to walk with you on those things and face those demons. And I think a lot of times there's a battle between love and fear.
Yeah.
you
And
know, in
sorry.
ourselves and in the world. And if we keep picking fear, that's the house that we live in. But we can pick love, and we do that for everyone on the planet.
Oh my
You
God.
pick love.
Yeah.
If you're sitting there and it's fucking dark and stormy in your brain, in your house, open the curtain,
Yeah.
you go outside, walk around a little bit.
Thank you. I'm going to
Yep.
add to that because I actually had that same thought yesterday. It was rainy. I said to my wife, it's so easy to drop back into that comfort zone of negative traits. And I did. I was here and I was like, oh, look at it. It's fucking shitty outside. I dropped down. I was like, "Er." I was like, fuck that. Put the brakes to that. Bring it back up. I'm like, but it's been blissful. I had a couple of podcasts yesterday. It was fucking just explosive. I love the content and conversation because we all have so much in common. We could all just get around together and yak for fucking weeks, I'm sure. Um, so that's what I did. I took it from a negative mindset, flipped
Mhm.
it around. I said, I'm not getting stuck in that yo-yo fucking cycle, man. It's beautiful. It's raining. We need this. My well's dry because we're on an artesian dug, or sorry, a dug well, not an artesian. And there's 6 of us residing in this home. So there's constant water being replenished through the tanks, the fucking hot water tanks being sucked dry all the time, showers and shit. But we're here together. There's lots of love in this unity, in this formation that I say is our family. We got 6 people and 2 dogs. And I couldn't ask for anything more. Like, I'm not filthy rich. I landscape, I renovate, I got my own business. But I like to keep things butthole simple. I really do, because that's where the gold is to me. That contentment is just that mediocre, moderate lifestyle that, everyone's aiming for tiny homes now, even the rich and the fucking dumb. The ones who are claiming minimalism is the way to be. Okay, so if we realize that we have less external shit, we're happier. Start doing that here, man. Fuck this minimalism attitude about having less in your life. Well, that's grateful. That's like cleaning your fucking yard and your house and shit. But it starts with weeding the garden in the brain, man. Right? Yeah.
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 There's nothing wrong with money and being
Oh,
rich, and
not at all.
abundance mindset is all around you, right? Like,
Yeah,
just like you shifted your mindset of from it's raining to look at all this abundance with this
I do.
rain refilling all these coffers and all this love, and
Yeah. Right.
yeah, living in abundance.
And one other point I'll make too is I remember sitting with a handful of pills in my hand. My
Mm.
wife was at work. I just suffered a couple of brain concussions from boxing. My brother passed, I think maybe a year and a half, 2 years to that prior. Diagnosed with bipolar, 1, ankylosing spondylitis, like all these health ailments, oral cancer, liver, holes in the liver. Like my system was just like shutting the fuck down. How I overcame it is just still marveling to me. People like, you didn't do that. Okay, how much do I have to fucking prove to people? The charts say it, man. The doctors have it written. It's recorded, man. It's on their database in all the hospitals. Matt had bipolar 1, had fucking oral cancer, fucking holes in the liver, blood circulation issues. This dude, how the fuck's he still standing? Docs used to say, how the fuck are you still here, man? Right? I tried to kill myself multiple times. It wasn't meant to be. So it tells me that I've got a bigger service to myself and humanity as a whole. I'm a firm believer in your thoughts will create the reality that you have provided for yourself. And a lot of people don't like eating on that, like the truth bomb. They're like, oh, it doesn't fit with me. No. There's too many circumstances in the external that create my reality. Sort of tell you, man, you've made your bed. You're where you are because of the choices you made. Stop taking that finger and wagging it to everybody, man. It's his fault, her fault, the way I brought up and blah. Those are contributors, sorry. But the outcome that you have right now is solely based on you. In a nutshell, I think that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I talk to people about that all the time, of like the thoughts you have build the house that you live in, whether it's this is so and so and this is how they are, this is who I am. We believe those things, and it's that's manifestation to energy, right? Of what are we manifesting? What are we creating? What are we believing is
Mm,
possible? And sometimes I think the only thing with that is people can get caught up in fear, like, well,
all big
if
time.
I'm creating all these things, then, I can't ever think about anything negative, or I can't think that I'm going to get sick. If I think something negative, then I'm going to get sick or something. And
Actually, no, sorry, you were just on a point, but I got to add to it when you're done. Sorry, Nicole.
yeah, well, I just want to say, like, I think sometimes the antidote is just being present, right?
Yeah, it is. I totally
Because
told you.
the present moment is limitless. It's infinite, right? We can have, just being present. It doesn't have to be any of those little things. It can be okay.
Yeah, like when you look at your family cat or dog, fucking thing's present all day. She's like, or just staring you in the face, like, are we gonna
Yeah.
go somewheres? Well, I can hold this gaze as long as you can, dude. And I've done it with my dog, like, kind of sketched out with him, right? What the fuck, man? This isn't a test to see who can stare who down first, but they're always in the present. They're the best teachers, man. And so is nature. Like I said, a tree doesn't get up and move and walk around. We are living organisms. I call ourselves walking, talking plants. The fuck we are. We got up and said, yeah, okay, we're bored just being stifling, stagnant objects. Let's go do some shit, man. Let's go explore and discover. That, people, I don't mean to hit the mic so hard, is what we need to focus on. Not about, yeah, you are right that wealth can be a tool or it can be, a crippling fucking device. I would love to have an abundance, an overabundance, and my intent is that to leverage things. But it's not for me to be like, look at my fancy fucking car and look at this big ass house I got. Like, none of that fucking means squat to me. What can I do on a collective conscious level to help, a magnitude of people, not just me. I don't want to be reigning king on my own. That's boring as shit. Nobody wants that.
No. And a great book is Jen Sincero's You're a Badass at Making Money, because it talks about that, talks about our relationship with money and the messages we have about money, and also how more good people like you and me should have money, because money's power and we can
Hmm,
actually influence and enact a lot more
right.
social change. So we need to kind of rip off some of those, like, money is the root of all evil.
Yeah, no, they're only that if your intent is to be that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, yeah, I have to tell you this story.
Yeah, no, I'm all ears.
I was, I don't know, I think 15 or 16, our dog, was a wolf dog, was dying. And so I was the one who would always take her out at night. And I went to see her, and I always felt like I could kind of communicate with her.
Mhm.
And we went out, and it was in the mountains, and the sky was so beautiful. The stars were just
Mm,
lit up.
awesome.
And we came back in the house, and I was like, I'm so sorry that you're dying. And she just said to me, she's like, life is so beautiful. Why don't you enjoy it? I'm not attached
Oh, God.
to any of this stuff, right?
Great.
You guys get attached to it, but
Here and gone.
I'm just here, and it's not a sad thing at all. And it really changed my perspective on a lot of things, including death, of just
Yeah.
because we have so many stigmas, but that's a whole another thing for a whole
Oh
nother time.
no, I'm gonna step into it right quick because
Yeah.
I want to say this while it's hot on the subject. I've said it numerous times before, Nicole. Like, people get this misconception that, oh, death, it's the end of everything. No, it's because you've been taught that. But guess what? You should be celebrating. And this is my take on it. And tell me if I'm wrong, or you feel I'm wrong. When people die, we cry, but we don't cry because we're missing them. We're longing to be with them. We're actually crying for ourselves because we're still in our own. If your mindset is like this, you're trapped in this fucking body. You pissed the fuck off. That cocksucker left, right? Like, I don't mean to be cruel. I'm not trying to say, like it's devious the way some people leave us, and it sucks. I get that. But ultimately, I feel as a collective consciousness in the human form that we are actually crying for ourselves because we want to be released like they've been, right? That's that whole transformation, the transition. Death isn't to be looked upon as the end of everything. It's the beginning. Like there's never really an end to anything. It's just shit cycles back and forth again, just like, you know, day and night, day and night. It's fucking, they sing about it all the time, day and night, right? We're gonna get into that, but celebrate, people. Don't cry, man. Yes, maybe lick the wounds for a minute and say, fuck, in the physical form, I can't enjoy the company of this person or these people. But you can, if you just open yourself to the possibilities, right? Yeah, what's your take on that, Nicole?
No, I don't know about that. Here's what I know. When I was going through that dark night of the soul, dark shit when I was a teenager, I hitchhiked a lot
Too.
from Boulder to Netherlands.
Me
And
too.
I would ask these strangers, because I'd see them one time, two questions. Do you believe in true love? And what do you think happens to you when you die?
Loaded
Now, yeah,
Yeah.
it was interesting because people who were answering the question, what do you think happens to you when you die?
Mm.
Everybody's answer was so different. And people had this shit figured out. It was kind of intense that people had these specific ideas of all the stuff that would happen. So I don't know. I don't know what happens, but in my work with EMDR, people who are grieving someone who's passed on, I think the thing that I found the most that helps is being able to connect with that person who's passed on in a good way and be able to remember them and come to peace with them, kind of.
Yeah, sorry about that. I gotta closed out my phone already, but also I gotta close out applications because I don't know about you, Nicole, man, but I'm getting dinged steadily. Like I wake up 40 to 50 fucking notifications, multiple messages, and go,
It's
all
hard to
of
figure
that,
out how to turn that off. Yeah.
right? And you know, I'm grateful. It's just like, oh wow, where'd this all come from? And out of nowhere. Okay, right. So I'm gonna just shut all this down. I want to give you all the space and attention that I can. There we go. Okay, sorry about that.
No worries. But yeah, I was working with a woman who she was in her 60s and in college, her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, she'd only been with a couple months, killed himself. And she punished herself for that for 40 years.
Oh
And
man.
yeah, and finally through EMDR, he came to her and he was like, you gotta let me move on. I am so sorry. You have to let me, I don't know if it's live in peace or die in peace, whatever,
Yeah.
and like, but I think sometimes people need that when like if someone's sick to like know that they're okay now and that they're not sick. I don't know.
That's it from my understanding of the connection with source and the spirit realm is that they're over there enjoying themselves. Like they're not contained in a vessel anymore. So it's just free energy, if you will, without any limitations. And it's nothing but bliss, love, unity, utopia. And that's why I said, like, we're crying for ourselves, like, fuck, why couldn't it be me? Right? But no, it's like, in all honesty, with my multiple suicide attempts, I would always wake up and go, fuckers, I don't want to
Well,
be resuscitated. Well, I didn't then, right?
well, we're living. We're having a human experience though, and there's some pluses to being human. So, you know, I think it's important to come back to figuring out what brings you joy
Yeah.
and participating in those things and enjoying the experience, enjoying this human experience because it's not going to last forever. We're saying, but to to live while
That's
we're
it.
here.
And you know, the great thing is in the title that we've given ourselves, human being, that's a key
Yep.
factor. Just
Yep.
be, motherfuckers. It's okay just to do nothing. And you know what? I've always found that I gotta intercept myself. See what I'm saying about interjecting all the time? You can cut my own self up. It's ridiculous. But let's go. Interruption. I got two in the last podcast, and it's crazy, Nicole. 12-12 was the first one. I was like, what the fuck just happened? Everything froze. And I looked at the sound like, yeah, okay. And then
Yeah.
12:34, I'm like, really, man? Like, Luna had some important messages she was sharing, and it's like, you just froze. So I'm looking around the room as if to ask for help. Like, what the fuck's going on here, right? And then she popped back on, like, oh, thank God. Let's revert and rewind 20 minutes past, or go back 20 seconds, sorry. So if it was important, it'll come back. If not, well, it wasn't relevant, and we'll just carry on. Uh, what were we discussing there a moment?
Well,
Nicole?
that's that spirit piece, right?
Right. Yeah. Then that's the best thing we can do is just entertain ourselves while we're here, indulge as heavily as we can with moderation for things that make us feel joyful. I'm gonna add a clip of a podcast with Marcus Audrey, and he talked to one of his guests about sexual content and how society has created this evil, devious mentality surrounding the taboo of masturbation, if you will. Like, we came out of the womb fondling ourselves. You want to word it that way, just be like, what the fuck's he talking about? Because it felt good. We were being rooted, grounded to ourselves. Like, that was our security blanket, your junk, your organs. It wasn't a fucking knitted blanket from the materialistic infrastructure matrix, man. We were already whole. We didn't need anything. And we were shooed away. Get that hand out of there. What are you playing with your dick for? Whatever. And it's like, what? So we were taught at a very young age, shame and guilt right there. Don't grab your stuff. And like, I used to walk around, I kid you not, when I was 19, 20, with my hand down my pants. I have no rhyme or reason of why. A lot of us did it. Skateboarders were just, I don't know, gnarly fuckers. And my mom seen me one day. She's like, Matt, what are you doing? I was like, what? She's like, what are you doing with your hands in your pants? Trying to talk to him. Like, right, that's kind of weird, isn't it? And then all of a sudden there's shame there again. Like, so my hand wasn't really on my junk. It was just below my belt, loop. And I was being scrutinized for that. That impacts that even further. Right. Don't ever touch your dick. It's weird. It's uneasy. And it makes people sketchy. So you should be shamed and guilty for that. Really? We show our fingers. I don't want to get weird like that, but like, that's the whole idea here. Like, our consciousness, our level of consciousness is so fucking low right now. And that's why we feel the stagnation, the barricades, the shame, the guilt, the loathsome. I mean, all these negative traits are felt that way because of the grooming, conditioning, and program mindset that we were born into. And that sucks to unravel all that and start fresh. So many layers, man.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not worse for women, but women are taught, we're supposed to be
Oh yeah, it's pitiful for you guys. Really though, my heart bleeds for you guys. Fuck.
like pure on one hand and a slut on the other, but it's secret,
Yeah.
and doesn't leave a lot of room for a healthy sexuality of being open about
Right. That's it. Okay. Perfect.
sexuality.
I
Yeah.
gotta add to that. I'll cut you off and apologize, but it angers me to like no ends with this shit that men can congregate together and talk about the filth. I fucking hate it. Like, I used to work on construction sites and I hear people yakking about what they did with their girlfriends or threesomes and all this, just degrading women and acting like sexual objects. It's why I hate pornography. Same fucking thing. It's so belittling to watch the actions that go on behind the screens, and people are like, I'll pay for that. You're like, what the fuck's wrong with you? This is what's wrong with society, man. The mental construct that we have of how people should be perceived, women specifically, as we're hitting that note now, they're not fucking sexual objects, man. I'm sorry to tell you, man. They're there to compliment you. They're there to be by your side, to walk the path with you. Fuck, stop degrading them. Like, this is why Tupac had such a beautiful relationship with women. Like, that dude had it on point all day fucking long. And these men that have to walk around, okay, prime example, Nicole. I hate the guys, not hate. I hate the traits of these guys that walk up to you. They see that you're kind of jacked up, a little muscular, and you just introduce yourself. You put out your hand, and I just delicately, I don't want to fucking squeeze your hand and crush it. What the fuck does that prove? But I get that, I'm like, okay, it's nice to meet you too. Look at my crab hand now. Look at the fuck you did. So was that because there's something lacking in you, dude? Or you seen something me you didn't like? Like, why did you just cripple my fucking hand? Right? What was the purpose of extending your tentacle, if you will, to grab to mine and crush that, to put yourself over me? I can't stand that shit. That mentality there, that, you know, I'm better than you in every way possible, is what's defeating us as a race. Like, we're going to go extinct by our own mentalities if we don't smarten the fuck up.
Yeah, and that goes back into that fear, right? Versus love. And pleasure is a huge manifester. Pleasure and desire and our natural desires, what we want, that can lead us down our actual path,
Right?
right?
Just let
And,
it be.
and lead us to those abundance and a full life while we're being human. There's an amazing book. I wish it was more geared to men because I think the messages in there are good for men too. It's called Pussy, a Reclamation by Regina Thomashower.
Wait a
So
minute. Can you say that again? I want to make sure I heard that right. And I will put a
let me
link.
say it again for
Yeah,
those.
yeah. Oh, it was
Pussy,
what I heard. Okay. Yeah.
Pussy,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. I was like, am I
Reclamation.
hearing shit? That's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to have to pick up that book.
It's a
Realistic.
great book.
Yeah.
And I think I the only thing that I wish she would have critiqued it, you know, or moved it a little bit for men, because
Mm.
men and women need to know more about
Men and
health,
women.
sexuality to
Yeah.
start with, and pleasure. And you know, since we're living in the 3D, that's one of the nice things about the 3D
It's
is
true.
the tactile, being outside, pleasure, manifesting, enjoyment.
True. 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 All right. Let me hit a point on that. Fuck, it's gone. Every time, Nicole. It was in relation to the idea of empowering women and whatnot. And it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you find too that you're having, I said this before in another podcast, the lack of words and thoughts that just seem to be ripped right from your fucking psyche? It's like, whoa. Has that been happening a lot to you as of late, the last couple of months, you feel?
That does happen, you know, in my practice. I lean on the spiritual in that I kind of tune in to what needs to be said, kind of like I'm more of a tool or a vessel, and
Thank you.
feel
Yes.
like what people need in the moment.
Okay. Yeah, because what I found was I was almost in concurrence with my wife to give her that kudos, like, yeah, you're right. She's like, you smoke too much weed. That's why you can't remember shit. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe. I'm like, wait a minute. And then I read something. I'm like, you can always entertain yourself. Doesn't matter what the argument is. You're always going to find shit that's going to support you,
Mhm.
regardless of right or wrong. That kind of sucks. But I found an article about spiritualism and seeing how that we're shifting into 5D and leaving a lot of 3D attachments alone because they don't serve you anymore. That also not entitles, sorry, that also creates the brain fog, if you will, like the distorted thoughts or like communication that gets zapped and shit. And that kind of makes sense to me. So I've been doing that for at least a steady 5 years now. Like massive brain fog before I finally seen things clearly, right? With my sickness and illness and ailments. But yeah.
Yeah, like things happen in the right time, and keeping the vessel clean, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Mm.
The 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 thoughts we feed ourselves, the people we feed ourselves, the situations, the food, the water.
That's the whole thing, man. It's not just, and that's the other point I'll make too is the misconception. The perception of thought now is like, you are what you eat.
Right.
That's only one side, man. Like if you're 4 dimensional, okay, we'll go 4 fucking angles here. You only hit one. What about the other 3? Oh yeah, forget about those. They don't teach us that shit, right?
Absolutely.
So you need balance in
Satisfaction
every,
is part
yeah,
of eating.
right. You need balance with all those
Yeah.
4 corners. Like check it. I love synchronicity and I see 4s all the time, but we all do.
Mhm.
4 seasons, 4 quarters. I said this earlier, but look at the fucking compass, the 4 points of the earth, north, south, east, and west. So if you can understand that everything is in fours, everything has to be a part of something to make a whole, then stop just, you know, hyper focusing on one narrow-minded fucking perception of what you need to do to build yourself to a homeostasis of balance, right? So
Yeah.
many variations, yeah, so many variabilities, and people aren't picking up on those clues. And doctors alone, like I've sat with doctors and like, huh? How the fuck did you get to know all this, man? Like, do you want my white coat? Like I've been asked before, like with the mental health, like, have you worked for mental health before? Or oh shit, you're a patient. Oh, okay. And all of a sudden the tables turn. But I had all their attention and understanding. They're eating it up like fucking, candy. The moment you say you're nothing more than a patient, you've lived life, they're like, stick, you're debunked and credentials are out the fucking window. Why don't you just tell me you had a piece of paper and a fucking white coat? We would have been better off. It's kind of scary.
It is. Well, we all have access to our inner truth and our inner wholeness. And I, as a therapist, know that you're an expert in you, and everybody
Yeah.
has their own truth and their own walk. And, we can't put that on other people.
Oh, right.
So, yeah, we all have, just because we go through a degree mill or something doesn't,
I like good mill. That's nice. Oh, really though, everything's mill based. Schools, I won't get into that. That's for another maybe another podcast. Yeah, we'll
Mhm.
definitely do that. With that being said, though, Nicole, we're sitting at no, that's perfect. Fucking hour and 10.
Yeah.
Would you like to add a few more things before I close this off? Like where people can find you, if you'd like some links tossed to the comment description box below for ones to follow you and whatnot. And if you
Yeah.
have any other closing statements too, Nicole.
I think we hit a lot of really intense things.
I think we did too. And like in the very beginning of the conversation, if you do recall, you asked like how deep you want to go. I'm like, oh fuck, bring it, man. The deeper the better, right? I don't like conversations that were just like trying to pick off the mountaintop and like just weed out little things. Like get right to the meat and potatoes, baby. I'm hungry, man. I want to eat on this shit. Peace off. Because it's a zealous quenching that I have. Like I'm thirsting for this shit. And when I have receptive participants, it's like, oh my God, man. Well, my people, finally, I'm not just talking to myself and be like, what you talking about, man? Shut up, you're embarrassing me. You know what I mean? I think we can all relate to that from this level of experience. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're on the same wavelength. And yeah, it's 11:11 here.
See? Right, 2:11 here. I don't know what the time is for our video, but that'll process and tell me after. But
Yeah.
we're on the right path. We're doing what we need to do as individuals, and all I can do is recommend everyone do the same. And don't
Yeah.
let anyone step on your fucking toes. Shine bright, motherfuckers. Do what you need to do, man. I'd be okay with that.
Yep. So my website is www.sowellu.com. And so my is on Facebook, Sowelu. It's a rune. It's on Facebook, it's SOWELU, and it's the rune for the sun, or integrated, like we're talking about. Everybody is that reminder that everybody's complete and whole. And I'm just helping them, like, as a guide to come back to themselves.
That's beautiful, Nicole. My God. See, this is why I love having conversations with people like this, man. And I'll do everything in my power to, boost and leverage your business and what you're trying to do for the world. Because to me, it's just like it makes my heart shine, like it just beaming, like holy smokes. Because we all have skill sets that we can offer people, especially newcomers who are just like touching base and getting their toes wet, if you will. Like, what is this? What's going on? I need to know more. And 20 plus years ago, as I spoke to Kelsey yesterday, we didn't have the beautiful finesse of the internet and the social networks and gatherings that we have today. It's like an overabundance. And my mouth's dry. Fuck.
Well, Thank you so much for having me on, and I appreciate everything you're doing. I'm glad.
Yeah, likewise, Nicole.
Let's
Appreciate
get
it.
out there.
Heck yes, we're all here, man. And
Man,
what we're going to be doing, people, is segment 2. We're going to touch base on other things that we kind of like highlighted but couldn't dive into based on time. And obviously, there's just infinite possibilities to go in so many different directions. And I love it. So we're going to keep doing this. Well, thank you very much, Nicole. You have yourself a blessed day, right? And I'll be talking to you soon, okay? All right, take care.
take
Bye-bye.
care.